Massive stone monuments stand as a silent challenge to our modern world. Long before blueprints or written contracts, prehistoric societies engineered wonders that still baffle us today. These silent architects mastered their environment using only spoken knowledge and collective memory. You will discover how they achieved the impossible and the profound lessons their work holds for our own digital age. How did they align Stonehenge with the heavens using only oral instructions? What secret knowledge allowed them to carve entire cities deep beneath the earth? This journey into prehistory reveals a sophistication that rivals our own. What does true ingenuity look like when stripped of all our modern tools? These silent architects were far more than anonymous laborers. They were master planners, astronomers, and community leaders whose identities are lost to time, yet their genius is permanently stamped upon the landscape. They operated without a single written word, encoding vast amounts of complex knowledge not on clay tablets or parchment, but in rituals, stories, and physical markers passed down through generations. Think of a master builder who could not write down a measurement, but who could recite a song that perfectly described the angle of the sun at the winter solstice. Their entire system of engineering was a living, breathing thing woven into the fabric of their culture. These monumental projects were community endeavors in the truest sense. Every single person, from the strongest individual hauling stones from the quarry to the eldest storyteller preserving the alignment legends, had a vital role to play. This was a society acting as a single, cohesive intelligence. The legacy they left behind is not found in libraries, but in the earth itself. It is in the vast, geometric earthworks that curve across entire valleys, and in the towering megaliths raised to capture the light of the sun on the longest day of the year. Their settlements show a profound understanding of local materials and environmental adaptation, building homes and temples that were in perfect harmony with the world around them. By starting to see these people not as primitive tribes, but as sophisticated collective minds, we can finally ask the right questions about how they achieved the impossible. The sheer scale of their ambition confronts us across millennia. How do you move a stone weighing more than 50 tons across miles of rugged terrain without wheels, metal tools, or written plans? This is the core puzzle of prehistoric engineering. It is a field defined not by what we know, but by the profound gap in our understanding. From the vast geometric earthworks of North America to the sophisticated water channels of ancient Peru, these projects demanded a kind of genius we are only beginning to comprehend. Modern engineering lives on paper and in digital files. Every measurement, every stress point, every material specification is documented in exhaustive detail. But prehistoric engineering existed in a different realm entirely. It was a living science passed from one generation to the next through demonstration, through story, and through song. This was knowledge held not in a library, but in the collective muscle and memory of an entire community. Consider the challenge of alignment. To position a massive stone so it captures the first ray of dawn on the summer solstice requires astonishing celestial precision. Without written tables or complex mathematics, how was this calculated and then communicated to the hundreds of people needed to erect it? The answer lies in a deep, accumulated familiarity with the sky, a knowledge so ingrained it became as natural as breathing. They learned to read the horizon like a map, using trees, distant hills, or specially placed marker posts as their guides, or think about the problem of weight and movement. How do you transport a megalith from a quarry 5 miles away? The solution was not a single secret, but a cascade of small, brilliant innovations. They might have used a bed of smoothed logs as rollers, with teams of people constantly moving the rear logs to the front. They likely understood the power of leverage and the use of woven ropes made from natural fibers. They knew how to wait for winter, dragging stones over frozen ground or snow to reduce friction. Every step was a product of intense observation and shared practical wisdom. These silent architects were not just builders, they were the original physicists and astronomers, their minds attuned to the fundamental laws of nature. They calculated immense distances and weights using their own bodies as measures, their strides as units of length, their collective strength as a unit of force. They turned the world itself into their blueprint, so the real question becomes, what can we learn from these masters of memory and collective action? Their legacy is a testament to the power of the human mind when it is perfectly synchronized with its environment and its community. That knowledge was not left to chance, it was deliberately encoded into the very rhythm of daily life. Across the ancient world, the most complex engineering principles were preserved not in books, but in songs. Imagine a chant that specified the exact ratio for the height and width of a stone arch, or a story that described the perfect angle for a roof beam to withstand heavy snow. These were not just tales for entertainment, they were living blueprints recited by elders and master builders who held the community's technical knowledge in their memory. The structure of a song, with its repetitive verses and steady rhythm, made vast amounts of information unforgettable. A single narrative could encode everything from celestial alignments to soil composition, turning a myth about a hero's journey into a precise construction manual. This method was brilliantly practical. Polynesian navigators, for example, did not have written star charts. Instead, they memorized long, intricate chants that mapped the positions of stars across the night sky, guiding their massive voyaging canoes across thousands of miles of open ocean with pinpoint accuracy. The chant was their GPS, a dynamic document sung aloud to keep the course true. Similarly, the generations who built the great earthworks in North America likely passed down their techniques through stories. A detailed narrative about how the ancestors shaped the land would embed crucial knowledge about which soils to use, how to layer them for stability, and how to align the massive forms with the landscape. This oral system was also remarkably adaptable. If a new discovery was made, or if a change in the climate required a different building technique, the stories and songs could be updated. The elder would incorporate the new knowledge into the existing narrative, ensuring that the entire community learned the improved method through the same familiar medium. This was a living, evolving database constantly refined by experience. The resilience of this oral knowledge challenges our modern assumption that writing is the pinnacle of information storage. A written manual can be lost or burned, but a song known by an entire community is far more durable. Its survival does not depend on a single fragile object, but on the collective voice of the people. This leads us to a deeper question. How did these societies ensure that everyone remembered their part? The answer lies in the power of ritual, where knowledge was not just spoken but physically performed. Rituals transformed the abstract into the physical. A seasonal festival was far more than a celebration. It was a project manager's starting gun. When the community gathered to mark a solstice, they were not just honoring the sun, they were activating a construction phase. The alignment of the rising sun with a specific notch in the hills was the signal that the ground was thawed, the weather was right, and the labor could begin. This celestial timing ensured that every stage of building was synchronized with the natural world, turning the heavens into a giant, reliable clock. Ceremonial dances were more than spiritual expression, they were living instruction manuals. the rhythmic stomping of feet could mimic the precise, coordinated steps needed to haul a massive stone. A chant rising and falling in a specific pattern might encode the sequence for levering a monolith into its socket. Every movement, every note, was a way to embed complex engineering procedures into muscle memory and communal consciousness. The construction site itself became a sacred space, and the act of building an act of devotion. This is powerfully evident at places like Göbekli Tepe, where the world's oldest known temples were raised. The very act of quarrying, carving, and erecting those immense T-shaped pillars was likely a ritual in itself. People from scattered groups would have traveled great distances to participate, not as forced laborers, but as contributors to a shared spiritual vision. This collective fervor solved one of the biggest challenges, the coordination of a large, temporary workforce. The belief system provided the social glue and the motivation, ensuring that everyone worked in harmony toward a common goal. The spiritual and the practical were not separate realms, they were two sides of the same stone. A society's deepest beliefs directly supported its greatest technological achievements, proving that faith can move mountains, or at the very least, position them with astonishing precision. This seamless fusion of mind, muscle, and myth allowed these silent architects to conceive of projects so grand, their scale alone seems to defy logic. The silent stones of Stonehenge hold a conversation with the sky. This iconic circle on the Salisbury Plain is more than a monument, it is a masterclass in silent engineering. Its largest sarsen stones, each weighing as much as 50 tons, were moved over 20 miles from their quarry. The smaller blue stones traveled an almost unimaginable 250 miles from the mountains of Wales. How did they achieve such a feat without written logistics? The answer lies in a symphony of coordinated labor. Imagine hundreds of people moving in unison, guided not by written plans, but by the rhythm of shouted commands and sweeping hand signals. They likely slid the massive stones on wooden sledges greased with animal fat, rolling them over a track of logs that were constantly shifted from the back to the front. To raise each towering megalith, they probably dug a large pit, tilting the stone down into it using a giant lever made from a tree trunk. Then, with ropes woven from plant fibers, teams of people would have slowly walked the stone upright, while others packed the base with rubble and soil to secure it. But the true genius of Stonehenge is not just in its construction, but in its mind. The entire structure is a giant astronomical clock. Its central axis is perfectly aligned to capture the first rays of the summer solstice sunrise, and the heel stone marks the midwinter sunset. This was not a lucky guess. It was the result of generations of patient sky watching, a celestial knowledge so precise it was literally set in stone. This knowledge had to be sustained over centuries as the site was built and modified by many generations. A master builder would teach his successor the correct alignments through oral instruction and by using temporary marker posts in the ground, ensuring the project's vision remained unbroken for over 1,000 years. Stonehenge shows us that silent architecture was a blend of immense physical power and breathtaking subtlety, a testament to what a community can remember and achieve together. This pattern of raising impossible stones was not unique to one windswept plain in England, but a global phenomenon written in the language of megaliths. Deep beneath the rocky landscape of Cappadocia, entire cities were carved from the living stone. The Derinkuyu complex is a labyrinthine world extending 18 levels down into the earth, a hidden metropolis capable of sheltering up to 20,000 people. Its creation is a stunning testament to silent engineering, a project of immense complexity executed with the simplest of tools, stone picks and hammers. The builders did not have architectural drawings, they had an intimate, generational knowledge of the volcanic tuff they were carving. They knew exactly which rock layers were soft enough to work yet strong enough to support the immense weight above, and they carved ventilation shafts hundreds of feet deep to ensure a constant supply of fresh air. They engineered a perfect seal from the inside, with massive, circular stone doors that could roll across corridors, each one weighing half a ton and effectively blocking any intruder. How did they plan such an intricate, multi-level society entirely underground? The city itself was the blueprint. The layout was not arbitrary, it was a direct expression of social organization. There were designated areas for everything, from wine presses and stables to churches and communal kitchens. Shafts were dug down to the water table, creating reliable wells that made the city self-sufficient during long sieges. Long, sloping passageways connected the levels, while low, narrow corridors forced any potential invaders to crouch and enter single file, making them vulnerable to defenders. This was not a haphazard refuge, it was a meticulously planned subterranean world. Every feature, from the placement of an air shaft to the thickness of a wall, was a product of collective memory and shared need. The knowledge of how to identify the perfect rock, where to dig the wells, and how to design the defensive bottlenecks was passed down through generations of craftsmen. They learned by doing, and they taught by showing, their techniques refined over centuries until they achieved a kind of perfection in the dark. Cappadocia proves that silent architecture was not limited to monuments reaching for the sky. It could also thrive in the profound quiet of the earth, a masterpiece of communal planning born from the need to survive. High in the Andes, the Incas and their ancestors sculpted the mountains themselves into a breathtaking agricultural engine. They transformed steep, rugged slopes into a cascading staircase of fertile fields, a monumental feat of engineering that fed millions without a single written plan. At sites like Moray, this work reached its most sophisticated form. Here, vast circular terraces sink deep into the earth, creating a series of natural microclimates. The temperature difference from the top terrace to the bottom can be as much as 27 degrees Fahrenheit, effectively replicating the varied conditions found across the entire Inca Empire. This was not merely a farm, it was a living laboratory where master farmers could experiment with crops, testing which strains of potato or maize would thrive at different altitudes. Their entire food security depended on this silent, ongoing experimentation, a continuous refinement of knowledge passed down through generations of observation. The genius of these terraces is woven into their very structure. The stone walls, built without any mortar, are layered with such precision that they have withstood centuries of earthquakes and torrential rains. The builders possessed an intuitive mastery of soil mechanics. They knew that these free-draining walls would prevent water from building up behind them, which would cause the entire structure to collapse. They filled the terraces with a carefully selected mix of soils, gravel for drainage, and nutrient-rich topsoil, creating the perfect growing medium. But the true lifeblood of the system was water. They engineered intricate canal systems that captured mountain spring water and distributed it with perfect equity across every level of the terraces. This was hydrology in practice, a deep understanding of gravity and flow that ensured not a single drop was wasted. This harmonious relationship with nature allowed them to support dense populations in one of the most challenging environments on Earth. The terraces controlled erosion, captured sunlight, and managed water in a completely self-sustaining cycle. They did not fight the mountain, they worked with its form, creating a productive ecosystem that was both incredibly resilient and astonishingly beautiful. The success of this entire system, from the perfect angles of the walls to the precise gradients of the canals, hints at a deeper, underlying order. How did these silent architects achieve such flawless symmetry and function without the language of numbers? The answer lies in a mathematics that was felt in the hands and seen in the world, a practical geometry written not on papyrus, but in the patterns of the land itself. Their geometry was not a set of abstract formulas, but a physical knowledge felt in the hands. Prehistoric builders achieved perfect circles and flawless right angles without a single written calculation. They used the world itself as their calculator. A simple rope tied to a central stake could be walked in a circle to create a perfect ring. To form a right angle, they likely employed the timeless principle of the 3-4-5 triangle. By taking a knotted cord with 12 equal segments, they could stretch it into a triangle with sides of 3, 4, and 5 units. The angle between the 3 and 4 unit sides would be a perfect 90 degrees. This practical application of what we now call the Pythagorean theorem is evident thousands of years before the philosopher was born, etched into the square bases of the Egyptian pyramids. Their mathematics was embodied, a knowledge held in the body's movement and the tension of a rope. This practical geometry was deeply intertwined with their understanding of the cosmos. To divide a circle into segments, they did not need a number for pi. They could use the sun's shifting shadows. By observing the path of a central post shadow throughout the day, they could mark key points that divided the circle into meaningful parts, perhaps aligning with solstice sunrises or other celestial events. The great henges and mounds they built were not just geometric shapes, they were models of the universe. The proportions of these structures often reflected cosmological beliefs, with their diameters and circumstances holding symbolic meaning related to cycles of the moon or sun. This reveals a profound truth about human ingenuity. Numerical abstraction was not a prerequisite for advanced design. A master builder did not need to write down an equation for a curve. He needed to know the song that described how to hold the rope and where to place his feet. The knowledge was encoded in the very act of creation, a seamless flow from mind to hand to material. This physical language of form and proportion set the stage for an even more permanent way of storing information, one where the knowledge was not just used to build a structure, but was built directly into its bones. They built their library not of parchment but of earth and stone. The landscape itself became a vast repository of knowledge, where every hill, every river bend, and every distinctive rock formation was a page in a living book. This was the ultimate expression of silent engineering, a system where information was not stored away, but integrated directly into the world everyone could see. The famous Nazca lines in Peru are perhaps the most dramatic example of this principle. Enormous geoglyphs of spiders, hummingbirds, and geometric shapes were etched into the desert floor, so large they can only be fully appreciated from the sky. We now believe these were not meant for gods in the heavens, but for people walking along prescribed ceremonial pathways. The lines functioned as a giant outdoor cathedral, with the specific shapes and alignments serving as a complex calendar and a map of celestial events. Their very preservation was an act of communal memory. The dark surface stones were removed to reveal the lighter soil beneath, and keeping these massive images clear required generations of people who knew the oral instructions for their maintenance, a tradition passed down to prevent the desert from reclaiming its canvas. On a different scale, consider the burial mounds that dot countless landscapes. These were not just piles of earth. Their placement was deliberate, often aligned with a distant topographic ridge or positioned to catch the first or last light of the sun on a significant day. A mound placed on a specific hilltop created a permanent dialogue between the human-made and the natural, marking the land with meaning that was understood by all. A person growing up in that environment would learn from childhood that this particular mound aligns with the setting sun on the shortest day of winter, and that river bend marks the direction of the quarry. The world around them was not a wild, untamed space. It was a coded map of their history, their beliefs, and their practical knowledge. There were no street signs because the land itself was the signpost. This practice of inscribing knowledge onto the earth transformed the entire environment into a mnemonic device, a memory palace on a colossal scale. To navigate this world, to build in it, and to live in harmony with it required a shared understanding of these silent codes. This leads us to wonder, how did they translate this deep, embedded knowledge into structures of such perfect geometry and alignment? The tools they used were deceptively simple, yet they unlocked a precision that rivals our own. The most sophisticated tool in their arsenal was not made of stone or wood, but of collective human intelligence. We often equate technology with material complexity, yet prehistoric builders achieved feats of engineering with a toolkit that seems almost laughably simple from our modern perspective. They worked with antler picks, stone axes, and wooden levers, yet they quarried blocks weighing many tons and shaped them with a precision that still fits together without mortar. How was this possible? The secret lies not in the tools themselves, but in the deep, accumulated knowledge of how to use them with maximum effect. Consider the process of quarrying a massive sarsen stone. A modern engineer might use diamond-tipped saws and explosive charges. The silent architects used fire and water. They would build a hot fire against the rock face, then suddenly douse it with cold water. The thermal shock would cause the stone to fracture along predictable lines, creating a clean, workable block. Then the real work began. Using hammerstones made of a harder rock, they would pound grooves along the surface, not to cut the stone, but to gradually pulverize it into a powder that could be scraped away. This was a process of incredible patience, a slow, persistent abrasion that could shape granite as effectively as any machine, given enough time and coordinated effort. Transport was another puzzle solved with elegant simplicity. The absence of the wheel was no obstacle. They used rollers, placing a sledge carrying a colossal stone on top of a track of felled logs. As the sledge moved forward, teams of people would constantly carry the logs from the back to the front, creating a continuous, rolling path. To reduce friction even further, they might lubricate the track with water or animal fat, turning a seemingly impossible drag into a manageable, rhythmic procession. The lever, one of the simplest machines known to humanity, became a powerhouse in their hands. A long, sturdy tree trunk, pivoted on a stone, could amplify the strength of dozens of people, allowing them to lift massive stones incrementally, packing rubble underneath to hold the gain. This was physics in its purest form, an intuitive understanding of mechanical advantage that required no written formulas. Every action was a testament to creative problem solving. Their technological sophistication was not measured in the complexity of their devices, but in the brilliance of their application. They possessed an encyclopedic knowledge of their materials, knowing which type of wood had the best tensile strength for a lever, which stone made the most effective hammer, and how to use natural elements like ice and mud to their advantage. This profound material intelligence, this silent partnership between human mind and earthly resource, allowed them to build for the ages. Their choice of stone was never accidental. Prehistoric architects were master geologists, reading the landscape for materials that balanced immense durability with the possibility of being shaped by human hands. They sought out specific types of rock, not just for their structural strength, but for their symbolic power and their unique workability. On the remote island of Rapa Nui, the massive moai statues stand as a testament to this deep material intelligence. These towering figures were not carved from just any rock. The builders deliberately selected a compressed volcanic ash called tuff from the quarry at Rano Raraku. This stone was relatively soft when first extracted from the quarry face, making it easier to carve with simple basalt picks. Yet, once exposed to the air, it hardened over time, ensuring the statue would endure. The same profound understanding governed the choice of the blue stones at Stonehenge. These distinctive spotted dolerite and rhyolite stones were transported over 250 miles from the Preseli Hills in Wales. This was not a random act. The geological composition of these stones, their internal crystalline structure, made them uniquely resonant, perhaps both physically and spiritually, for the builders who went to such extraordinary lengths to bring them to the Salisbury Plain. The very decision to source materials from such distant, specific locations reveals a sophisticated network of knowledge about geological sources and the logistics of moving immense weight across challenging terrain. The shaping of these stones was a testament to patience. Without metal tools, they employed a technique of persistent pecking and grinding. A carver would use a hammerstone to repeatedly strike the surface, gradually pulverizing tiny fragments of rock into dust. For finer details and a smooth finish, they would switch to grinding with sand and water, using a smaller stone as an abrasive tool. This was not a quick process. Completing a single moe or one of the great Sarsen trilithons at Stonehenge could have consumed the entire working life of a generation, with the knowledge and the labor passed like a baton to their children and grandchildren. The payoff for this generational effort was permanence. The structures they built have withstood thousands of years of rain, wind, and frost because the material science was flawless. They knew which stones would resist weathering, which angles would shed water most effectively, and how to shape surfaces to minimize stress. This was engineering on a geological timescale, a collaboration between human intention and the enduring strength of the earth. Such monumental, multi-generational projects could never have been the work of a few individuals. They required a social machine of incredible coordination and purpose, a society organized around a shared vision that spanned centuries. The stones did not raise themselves. They were lifted by the hands of thousands, united not by a king's command, but by a shared belief. In prehistoric societies, the mobilization of a massive labor force was a social phenomenon, not a military one. The workforce that built Stonehenge or the great earthworks of North America was likely assembled through a calendar of seasonal festivals. These were not grim labor camps, but events woven into the cultural fabric, where participation was a spiritual duty and a social expectation. A solstice gathering was not just a time to watch the sunrise, it was the signal for the community to come together and build. The act of moving a stone became a form of worship, a physical prayer that strengthened both the monument and the community itself. Leadership in these settings was fluid. The person directing the placement of a megalith was probably not a permanent chieftain, but a master builder renowned for their skill, or a spiritual elder whose authority came from their deep knowledge of the stars and the old stories. Coordination happened through oral agreements and a common understanding of the goal. There were no written contracts, only a shared vision that everyone was invested in realizing. This egalitarian approach had a profound effect, because everyone had a role to play, from the child carrying water to the elder chanting the rhythm for the hauling teams. A powerful sense of collective ownership took root. The finished monument was not the property of a single ruler. It belonged to the entire community, a physical symbol of their shared identity and capability. This distributed model of responsibility also made the knowledge system more resilient. Technical skills were not hoarded by an elite class of scribes or engineers. They were spread throughout the population. The person who knew the song for aligning the stones might be a farmer, and the one who understood the best quarrying technique might be a hunter. This stands in stark contrast to the later hierarchical empires, where immense projects were often driven by the coercive power of a pharaoh or emperor, their achievements towering over the populace rather than rising from within it. The silent architects show us that humanity's greatest monuments can be born from cooperation, not command. The winter solstice sunrise at Newgrange is a spectacle of pure intention. For a few precious minutes around the shortest day of the year, a single, narrow beam of sunlight pierces the total darkness of a tomb chamber buried beneath an enormous earthen mound in Ireland. This was not a lucky accident. It is the result of a celestial engineering project so precise that its architects aligned the entire massive structure to capture that one specific ray of light 5,000 years ago. This mastery of the sky was a global phenomenon, from the sun daggers that slice across spiral petroglyphs in the American Southwest to mark the equinoxes, to the intricate lunar alignments baked into the geometry of Stonehenge. These silent architects were mapping the heavens. They used the world itself as their observatory. A distant notch between two mountains became a permanent calendar marker, signaling the start of the planting season when the sun rose from that specific point. They tracked the moon's complex 18.6-year cycle by watching its most extreme rising and setting positions against the horizon, marking each point with a standing stone. This celestial knowledge was the bedrock of their society. It dictated when to sow crops and when to harvest, when to hold the most sacred ceremonies, and when the community should gather to build. The entire rhythm of life was synchronized with the cosmic clock, a deep time awareness passed down through stories about the stars. A single elder reciting an epic poem could be conveying generations of accumulated data on planetary movements and seasonal shifts. The accuracy of these alignments, achieved without telescopes or written records, proves their observation was relentless and their memory was flawless. They had to be. The survival of the community depended on knowing exactly when the rains would come or when the river would flood. This profound connection to the cycles of time and space naturally demanded a parallel mastery over another vital, unpredictable element, the essential flow of water that gave life to their ambitious world. The flow of water was a rhythm they learned to conduct. Without a single pump or metal pipe, prehistoric societies engineered hydraulic networks of astonishing complexity, turning the chaotic force of rivers and rain into a predictable, life-giving resource. In the great cities of the Indus Valley, like Mohenjo-Daro, this mastery was woven into the very streets. Every house was connected to a city-wide drainage system, with covered channels running beneath the lanes that carried waste away from populated areas. They built countless wells from precisely fitted baked bricks, ensuring a constant, clean supply of drinking water for every neighborhood. This was not a luxury, it was a foundational principle of urban planning, a silent commitment to public health engineered centuries before the concept had a name. The entire system operated on one simple, brilliant force: gravity. They designed their canals and aqueducts with just the right slope, a gentle, consistent descent that kept water moving steadily from its source to the fields and homes that needed it. This gradient was not calculated with instruments, but through generations of watching how water behaved. They knew by sight and feel the exact angle that would prevent water from stagnating or flowing so fast it eroded the channel walls. This intuitive hydrology extended to their magnificent stepped wells. These were not just sources of water, they were architectural marvels. As you descended the cool, symmetrical staircases, you were walking deeper into the Earth's aquifer, each step bringing you closer to the vital resource. The design was perfectly pragmatic, allowing access to the water table even as it fluctuated with the seasons, while the stone walls prevented the sides from collapsing. But the meaning went deeper than mere function. The act of descending into the earth to draw water was often a spiritual journey, a symbolic descent into the underworld and a return with life itself. The flow of water through their cities mirrored the flow of cosmic energies in their beliefs. linking the practical and the profound in a single, circulating system. Their success reveals a deep, almost innate understanding of fluid dynamics. They knew how to slow floodwaters with strategically placed barriers, how to filter silt from drinking supplies using layers of sand and gravel, and how to channel spring water for miles across a landscape. They were the original water managers, their knowledge etched not in textbooks, but in the gentle, reliable flow of water through their hand-laid channels. This intimate dance with a fundamental element prepared them for the greatest test of all, a world in constant flux. They built not against the landscape, but as an extension of it. The silent architects possessed a profound understanding that true resilience came from harmony with the local environment, not domination over it. Their structures were not imposed upon the land. They emerged from a deep, generational conversation with it, using natural resources with an efficiency that modern engineering struggles to replicate. In the arid canyons of the American Southwest, the ancestral Pueblones did not simply seek shelter. They became part of the cliff face itself. Their intricate dwellings, tucked beneath vast sandstone overhangs, were a masterstroke of environmental design. The rock itself served as a natural roof, shielding them from the blistering summer sun and the rare torrential downpours. In the winter, the low-angle sunlight could still penetrate deep into the dwellings, warming the stone walls which would then radiate heat throughout the cold desert night. This passive temperature regulation required no energy beyond the initial construction, a perfect marriage of location and need. The cliffside positioning was also a brilliant defensive strategy, making their communities nearly inaccessible to outsiders and turning the geography itself into a fortress wall. On the other side of the world, in the verdant mountains of Southeast Asia, another form of silent engineering unfolded. Here, generations of farmers transformed steep, rugged slopes into a cascading tapestry of rice terraces. This was not a fight against the mountain, but a collaboration with its form. The terraces were meticulously engineered to follow the natural contour lines of the hillside. By building along these curves, they created a series of level fields that prevented precious topsoil from being washed away by heavy monsoon rains. Each terrace acted as a shallow reservoir, capturing rainwater and allowing it to slowly percolate down to the level below. This system maximized water retention, ensuring that every drop was used to nourish the crops before gently moving on, preventing both drought and destructive erosion downstream. This symbiotic approach allowed societies to not just survive, but to genuinely thrive in the most challenging climates on Earth. From the heart of the desert to the depths of the rainforest, they observed the subtle patterns of their environment and mimicked them in their constructions. They understood the flow of water, the path of the sun, and the strength of the wind, and they designed their world to work with these forces. This ancient wisdom offers a powerful lesson for our own age. In a time of climate crisis, their methods stand as a testament to a sustainable model of living, one where human ambition is balanced with ecological intelligence. Their buildings were more than just shelters from the elements. They were physical expressions of a worldview, where every stone and every field was imbued with a deeper, symbolic meaning. Every structure was a sentence in a vast, unspoken language. The silent architects did not simply build for function. They encoded their deepest beliefs directly into the earth and stone. A monument was never just a monument. It was a physical representation of their cosmology, a model of the universe as they understood it. The choice of a circle was never arbitrary. This shape, with no beginning and no end, powerfully symbolized the eternal cycles they observed all around them, the endless loop of the seasons, the birth and death of the sun each day, and the great wheel of life and rebirth. The orientation of a tomb was a deliberate act of storytelling, A passage grave like Newgrange, aligned to the winter solstice sunrise, was not merely a technical achievement, it was a profound spiritual statement. It connected the realm of the dead with the rebirth of the sun, suggesting a belief in renewal and an afterlife journey guided by celestial forces. The stones themselves were characters in these narratives. At Carnac in France, thousands of megaliths stand in long, parallel rows stretching for miles across the landscape. We see only silent pillars, but to the people who raised them, these lines may have represented a grand epic. Each stone could have marked a clan ancestor or a chapter in a creation myth, turning the entire coastline into a sprawling, three-dimensional storybook. The very act of positioning a stone was imbued with meaning. Placing a glacial erratic, a stone carried by ancient ice and dropped far from its origin, into a burial mound was a way of connecting the deceased to the deep, mythical history of the land itself. These builders were master storytellers, using the language of geology and alignment instead of words. Decoding this symbolism is one of our greatest challenges. Without a Rosetta Stone to translate their intentions, we are left with careful observation and informed intuition. We see the repetition of spirals, perhaps representing the labyrinth of life, or concentric circles that might map the layers of the cosmos. We notice how certain mounds are placed to be visible from specific valleys, acting as permanent territorial markers and reinforcing a shared identity for everyone living within sight of them. This cultural layer reveals that their engineering was never a cold, calculated science. It was a holistic practice where spiritual vision and physical labor were two sides of the same hand. The strength of their society was rooted not just in shared labor, but in a shared story, a common understanding of the world that was literally set in stone for all to see. This unity of purpose raises a compelling question: what happened when this shared vision began to fade? Deciphering the intentions of the silent architects is a delicate art. Without written records, modern archaeology must become a detective, piecing together a story from fragments of pottery, subtle changes in soil color, and the silent testimony of post holes left in the earth. We have powerful new tools at our disposal. LiDAR scanning from aircraft can strip away the forest canopy to reveal vast geometric earthworks hidden for centuries, while radiocarbon dating can pinpoint the age of a charcoal fragment from an ancient hearth to within a few decades. Yet for all this technological prowess, the human mind behind the blueprint remains elusive. We can map a structure with millimeter accuracy, but we cannot so easily map the thought process that conceived it. This leads to profound and ongoing debates. Is the alignment of a particular stone row with a distant mountain peak a deliberate act of celestial engineering, or is it simply a coincidence of the landscape? The answer is rarely simple, and it requires a deep collaboration between science and a more intuitive form of knowledge. Increasingly, archaeologists are turning to the traditional knowledge held by indigenous communities, whose oral histories sometimes carry echoes of the very practices used millennia ago. A story about a river spirit might encode crucial information about seasonal flooding patterns that influenced settlement locations. This partnership between laser technology and living memory is our best hope for understanding. It also demands a profound humility. We must constantly check our own modern assumptions, resisting the urge to see ancient societies as primitive versions of ourselves. They were not. They were complex cultures with a completely different way of perceiving and interacting with the world. Every new discovery, from a worn-out antler pick to the precise layout of a newly discovered henge, adds another piece to this immense puzzle. As we refine our interpretations, we are not just learning about how they moved stones, we are glimpsing the very contours of their cognitive landscape. This leads us to the ultimate mystery. How was this hard-won knowledge, this collective intelligence, successfully passed down through hundreds of generations without a single word being written? The master builder's most vital tool was the student standing beside him. Knowledge in these societies flowed not through institutions, but through people, a continuous river of practical wisdom passed from one generation to the next. This was a system built on apprenticeship where a young person learned by doing, their hands guided by the experienced hands of an elder. A child would not be given a lecture on leverage. They would be handed one end of a long timber and shown where to place the pivot stone. They learn the correct angle for a stone wall not from a diagram, but by mixing mortar and watching how the elder carefully selected and placed each rock, feeling the balance and stability in the process. This was education through immersion, where technique was absorbed through the muscles and the senses, becoming an instinct as reliable as breathing. Repetition was the key to mastery. The same wall was built and rebuilt, the same quarrying technique practiced season after season until every movement was flawless and efficient. This direct participatory learning created a deep, embodied knowledge that was far more resilient than any written manual. A scroll could be lost, but a skill remembered in the hands of an entire community was almost impossible to erase. This system was reinforced and given sacred weight through ritual. A ceremony marking the completion of a project was not just a celebration. It was a powerful mnemonic device, a way of sealing the memory of the construction process into the collective mind. The songs sung and the dances performed during these events encoded the step-by-step procedures, turning a technical sequence into an unforgettable story. This ritualized reinforcement acted as a cultural backup, ensuring that even in times of famine or conflict, when social order was strained, the core knowledge of how to build, how to align, and how to engineer would survive. It became part of the community's spiritual identity, too precious to be forgotten. In some societies, this knowledge became a form of power, held closely by specific families or guilds. The secrets of working a particular stone or composing a specific alignment chant might be passed only from a master to a chosen apprentice, often a relative. This selective transmission maintained the status and authority of these skilled lineages, creating a specialized class of engineers whose expertise was both respected and protected. This intergenerational continuity allowed for a slow, steady refinement of techniques over centuries. We can see this progression clearly in the mound-building cultures of North America. The earliest earthworks were often simple, conical burial mounds, but over hundreds of years they evolved into vast, complex geometric shapes, sprawling animal effigies, and massive platform mounds that supported entire towns. Each generation built upon the knowledge of the last, improving soil compaction techniques, perfecting the geometry of their designs, and scaling up their ambitions. This was innovation at the pace of generations, a cumulative intelligence that proves oral cultures are not static, but are capable of profound and sustained technological evolution. This deep, resilient system of knowledge transfer was not an isolated phenomenon. It was a global constant, a shared human technology that allowed silent architects from every corner of the ancient world to speak to the future in a language of stone and earth. A shared human impulse to build on a grand scale echoes across every continent, yet the forms these structures took were as diverse as the landscapes themselves. In the cool, misty highlands of Europe, communities raised circles of towering megaliths, their stark silhouettes pointing towards the heavens. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic in the fertile river valleys of North America, other societies were sculpting the earth itself, creating vast geometric enclosures and soaring animal effigies that can only be fully seen from the air. Far to the south, in the high Andes, the solution was terracing, carving the mountains into productive staircases. Each of these projects required the same fundamental ingredients: a deep understanding of local materials, the coordinated labor of hundreds or even thousands of people, and a system of knowledge transfer that did not rely on the written word. They all faced the universal challenges of moving immense weight, aligning structures with celestial precision, and managing the vital flow of water. But their solutions were brilliantly localized. In the swampy deltas and rainforests of Southeast Asia, building with heavy stone on soft, wet ground was impractical. The genius there expressed itself in stilt houses, entire villages raised on wooden piles that lifted living spaces above floodwaters and dangerous animals, using the abundant forests as their primary resource. On the coast of East Africa, another unique solution emerged. Builders used coral rag, a lightweight limestone harvested from the reefs, binding it with a lime mortar to construct elegant, airy cities like those on Zanzibar. This material was perfectly suited to the humid, salty air, resistant to decay and providing natural cooling. The choice was not random, it was a direct conversation with the environment. This global tapestry reveals that the silent architects were not following a single, secret blueprint. They were all asking the same fundamental questions about how to live, how to build community, and how to leave a mark upon the world. But the answers they carved into the earth were beautifully their own. Their collective legacy is not a single technique, but a powerful demonstration of human adaptability, proving that ingenuity flourishes within the constraints of a specific place and time. That debt to the silent architects is written in the stones of civilizations that came long after. The engineering genius of prehistoric societies did not vanish. It became a foundation, a hidden bedrock upon which later empires unknowingly built. Consider the massive stone tombs of the Mycenaeans in ancient Greece, with their famous corbelled arches where each stone layer slightly overlaps the one below, forming a soaring, stable roof. This was not a sudden invention. Its principles were being worked out thousands of years earlier in the great passage tombs of Neolithic Europe, like Newgrange. The silent architects had already mastered the art of stacking stone to create enduring, weight-bearing spaces, a fundamental concept that would echo through the ages. This was a technological inheritance passed down not through written manuals, but through the slow, persistent observation of ruins and the oral traditions that survived alongside them. The influence extended far beyond grand monuments. Look at the agricultural heart of societies, the breathtaking terraces that sculpt the Andes mountainsides, a system perfected by the Inca, did not spring from nothing. They were the culmination of thousands of years of experimentation by earlier cultures who first learned how to hold the soil on steep slopes, how to manage water with simple canals, and how to create microclimates for different crops. When the Spanish arrived, they did not dismantle this system, they adopted it because its efficiency was undeniable. The silent architects had engineered a solution so perfectly adapted to the land that it outlived empires and conquests. This legacy is a ghost in the machine of history, largely unacknowledged because written records tend to celebrate the cultures that produced them, often overlooking the deep, prehistoric roots of their own achievements. The Romans are famed for their roads and aqueducts, but the fundamental understanding of surveying land, of reading gradients for water flow, and of communal labor organization had all been pioneered millennia earlier by societies who mapped the world with their feet and measured water's flow with their eyes. By tracing these subtle connections, we begin to see a different lineage of innovation. It is a continuous thread of human problem-solving, one that stretches from the first time a community rolled a stone into place to mark a solstice, to the complex urban planning of the first cities. This forces a profound reflection. In our rush to celebrate the written word, what essential forms of intelligence did we leave behind? The silent architects teach us that some of the most enduring knowledge is not stored in libraries, but in the land itself, and in the collective memory of how to live in harmony with it. The shift to written records was a revolution with a hidden cost. For the first time, plans could be preserved with perfect clarity across generations, and complex instructions could be sent to a distant city without a master builder having to make the journey. This was an undeniable leap forward, a new form of memory that seemed to promise permanence, yet something vital began to fade from the world of engineering. The deep, embodied knowledge held in the hands of the craftsperson, the subtle adjustments made by feeling the grain of the stone or watching the flow of water, started to lose its authority. A written plan, once inscribed, carries a weight of finality. It can become rigid, demanding strict adherence even when local conditions or new discoveries suggest a better way. The oral traditions of the silent architects were fluid by design. A story or a song could be adapted, its verses updated to reflect a better quarrying technique or a more efficient lever design, all without ever declaring the previous version obsolete. This was knowledge that lived and breathed with the community that held it. Perhaps the most profound loss was the sense of collective authorship. In a world of written contracts and architectural drawings, individual names are recorded for history. We know the pharaoh who commissioned the pyramid, but we do not know the names of the thousands who designed its perfect angles through trial and error over centuries. Writing tends to celebrate the singular genius, while the silent monuments point to the power of the communal mind. The great projects of prehistory were owned by everyone because everyone had a hand in their creation. The transition to literacy centralized control and specialized knowledge, taking the power of design out of the hands of the many and placing it into the scrolls of the few. This was not a simple progression from primitive to advanced, but a fundamental trade-off. We gained precision and range, but we risked losing flexibility and a deep, participatory connection to our own creations. Is it possible to reclaim what was lost without sacrificing the benefits of the written word? Modern practices like participatory design and community-led planning are attempts to do just that, to bring the collective wisdom of the silent architects back into the conversation, creating structures that are not just built for people, but by them. The principles of the silent architects are not relics, they are a blueprint for our own future. Modern engineers are now rediscovering that the most resilient designs often look back to these ancient methods. The drive for sustainable architecture, for example, is a direct echo of prehistoric wisdom. We are learning to use local materials again, not just for aesthetics, but to drastically cut down on the carbon footprint of transportation, just as they used the stones from the nearest quarry. Passive solar design, which uses the sun's path for natural heating and cooling, is a sophisticated return to the same celestial observations that guided the placement of a cliff dwelling or a stone circle. Our most advanced green buildings are, in a way, relearning how to be in conversation with the environment, rather than dominating it with brute mechanical force. This shift also embraces a more inclusive model of creation. The modern practice of participatory planning, where community members collaborate directly with architects and engineers, is a powerful revival of the communal spirit that built the great mounds and terraces. It recognizes that the people who live in a place hold a deep, intuitive knowledge of its needs, its flows, and its history. By involving them, we are not just checking a box for public relations, we are tapping into a collective intelligence, much like the silent architects did, ensuring the final design is not just imposed upon a community, but grows from within it. This fusion of old and new is yielding remarkable results. In regions prone to earthquakes or floods, engineers are increasingly integrating traditional knowledge with modern science. They might combine seismic data with local oral histories about which land has always been stable, or use computer models to refine ancient water harvesting techniques that have worked for centuries. This hybrid approach acknowledges that our ancestors were brilliant observers who developed solutions perfectly adapted to their specific environment. Their success was not based on superior technology, but on a superior understanding of context. By studying these prehistoric projects, we are not just admiring the past, we are gaining a new toolkit for solving contemporary crises. Their work teaches us that true sustainability is not about adding complex green gadgets to a flawed design, but about getting the fundamentals right from the start, using the geometry of the land and the physics of the sun and wind as our primary guide. This shows that the legacy of the silent architects is far more than stone and earth. It is a way of thinking, a profound cognitive skill set that allowed them to hold vast, complex systems in their collective mind. Their minds were their most sophisticated tools, operating with a cognitive architecture we are only beginning to map. Prehistoric engineers possessed a form of intelligence that was profoundly spatial and deeply embodied. Without a single formal school, they developed an extraordinary ability to visualize a finished monument in the landscape long before the first stone was quarried. This was not magic, it was an advanced form of spatial reasoning, a mental skill honed by a lifetime of navigating complex terrain, tracking animal migrations, and reading the subtle contours of the land. They could look at a raw stone and see the finished statue within it, understanding its internal grain and how to work with it, not against it. This cognitive toolkit was built on a foundation of relentless pattern recognition. They did not just see random stars, they saw constellations. They did not just see seasons change, they recognized the long, slow cycles of climate that shifted over decades. This ability to detect order in chaos was the engine of their innovation, allowing them to anticipate problems and design solutions that have stood for millennia. Think of the challenge of estimating the volume of soil needed for a massive mound, or the weight of a 50-ton megalith. They calculated these immense quantities using their own bodies and the world around them as a reference. A basket became a standard unit of volume. The combined pulling strength of 20 people became a unit of force. Their mathematics was lived and felt, a practical geometry that was constantly tested and refined through direct action. Neuroarchaeology offers a fascinating insight into this process. When we engage in complex, hands-on tasks, especially those that require coordination with others, our brains forge new neural pathways. The very act of planning and building these colossal projects likely sharpened the cognitive abilities of the entire community. It was a self-reinforcing cycle where the project demanded advanced mental skills, and the process of construction itself enhanced those same skills, fostering both individual ingenuity and powerful social cohesion. Every time a team successfully levered a stone into place, they were not just building a monument, they were strengthening the collective brain of their society. This shared mental framework allowed for flawless coordination through visual and oral cues. A master builder could use a series of hand signals to direct the precise placement of a lintel stone, or a specific chant could set the rhythm for 100 people pulling on a rope. The knowledge was distributed, alive in the gestures, the songs, and the shared gaze of the workforce. This cognitive legacy demonstrates that human intelligence is a universal constant, flourishing in countless forms. It challenges our narrow definitions of education and genius, reminding us that the mind, when fully engaged with the world and its community, is capable of engineering wonders that still leave us in awe. Their silent stones pose one last, tantalizing question. What ultimate mysteries remain locked within their enduring forms? Even with all our advanced technology, some prehistoric structures defy complete explanation. The colossal stone blocks of Baalbek in Lebanon present one of the greatest challenges. Here, a platform known as the trilithon contains 3 stones, each estimated to weigh over 800 tons. How did anyone in the ancient world quarry, transport, and lift such incomprehensible masses into place, fitting them together with hairline precision? The nearby quarry holds an even larger block, nicknamed the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, weighing a staggering 1,650 tons. It was cut and prepared but never moved. The methods for handling such weight remain a subject of fierce debate, with no single theory offering a fully satisfactory answer. Similar enigmas appear in the form of mysterious, standalone monuments. While modern creations like the Georgia Guidestones have captured public attention, prehistoric versions exist across the globe, from the lonely Karnak alignments in France to the haunting stone circles of Senegambia. Their stark, geometric forms seem to convey a message, but the meaning is locked away, their original purpose eroded by time. The precision of some alignments is another source of deep mystery. At Puma Punku in Bolivia, stone blocks were cut with such exacting, interlocking shapes and drilled with such perfectly cylindrical holes that they seem to suggest a level of technological sophistication we do not typically attribute to that era. This has, understandably, led to speculation about lost techniques or even knowledge from outside sources. Yet these puzzles are not dead ends, they are the very engine of archaeology. Each unsolved mystery forces us to question our assumptions about the past. Could the builders of Baalbek have mastered a form of acoustic levitation, as some researchers wonder? Did they possess a forgotten understanding of anti-gravity or material softening? While such ideas are controversial, they highlight how these silent stones push the boundaries of our imagination. The true value of these enigmas is that they keep the field alive and dynamic, inviting each new generation to look closer, to ask better questions, and to humbly accept that the silent architects still hold their most profound secrets close. The silent stones have spoken across millennia, not in words, but in a language of resilience and profound intelligence. We have walked with the master builders of Stonehenge, who captured the sun in a ring of stone, and descended with the communities of Cappadocia, who carved entire cities from the living rock. We have seen how celestial knowledge was sung into existence and how engineering principles were danced into memory. These were not primitive people stumbling toward progress. They were sophisticated societies whose collective mind achieved a harmony with the world that we are still struggling to relearn. Their true legacy is not found in any single monument, but in the timeless principles they embody. They show us the incredible power of a community united by a shared vision, where every person, from the stone hauler to the storyteller, held a vital piece of the puzzle. They demonstrate a breathtaking adaptability, turning the constraints of their environment into the very source of their genius, whether by terracing a mountain or building with the wind and sun. Most of all, they mastered the art of intergenerational knowledge, weaving essential wisdom into the fabric of culture so it could survive and evolve for centuries. In our own era of climate crisis and resource scarcity, their example is not a quaint historical footnote, it is an urgent blueprint. We are now realizing that true sustainability is not about adding more technology to a broken system, but about returning to those fundamental principles, using local materials, designing with nature, and most importantly, building with the collective intelligence of the community. The silent architects challenge our obsession with individual genius and written records, reminding us that some of the most enduring wisdom is held in the hands, the songs, and the shared memory of people working together. So the next time you stand before an ancient mound or a mysterious stone circle, do not just see a relic, see a testament to what humanity can achieve when we listen to the land, trust in each other, and build for a future we may never see, but that our descendants will inherit with gratitude. If this journey into the silent world of prehistoric engineering has captured your imagination, share that wonder with others. Liking and sharing this video helps spread these untold stories of human ingenuity far and wide. For more deep dives into the mysteries that shaped our world, subscribe to our channel and join our community of curious minds. We are eager to hear your voice in the conversation below. Which ancient site leaves you in the greatest awe, and what lessons do you believe our modern world should borrow from these masters of memory and collective action? Your insights are a vital part of this ongoing exploration. Thank you for traveling back through time with us. The stones may be silent, but the stories they hold are waiting for us to